Zbigniew Seifert, 1946 to 1979, was a unique figure in the world of Polish jazz. Though he did not even live to be 33, and his musical output is modest, its artistic value still compels admiration and continues to have a distinct impact on young artists around the world today. The respected German jazz journalist Joachim Ernst Berendt once said, "Zbigniew Seifert was one of those musicians thanks to whom so much good is now said in the world about Polish jazz." Born in Krakow, Seifert was associated with that city almost throughout his entire life. It was there that he completed primary and secondary music schools, and where he developed his abilities with the eminent violinist and tutor, Professor Stanisław Tawrozewicz. He continued his education in the State Higher School of Music in Krakow, also in Tawrozewicz's class. His passion for jazz started in secondary school, where he began to play the alto saxophone, and it was to jazz that he decided to dedicate his life. The saxophone was his natural choice, as, from the beginning, he was fascinated with the music of John Coltrane. More or less in the same period, he set up his first ensemble, the Zbigniew Seifert Quartet, including Jan Jarek on piano, Jan Gonciarczyk on bass, and Janusz Stefanski on drums. Uncompromising and very daring in their artistic aims from the very start, they won the second prize in 1968 and then the first prize in 1969 at the Jazz on the Oder Festival, while Seifert himself took individual prizes for virtuosity. In 1969, the Zbigniew Seifert Quartet won the first prize at the Nagi Kuros Festival in Hungary. All these achievements paved the way for Seifert's quartet to perform at the Jazz Jamboree. In 1968, the quartet also drew the attention of trumpeter Thomas Stanko, who had come to prominence a few years earlier in the groups of Krzysztof Komeda. In the late 1960s, the Zbigniew Seifert Quartet and the recently founded Tomasz Stanko Quintet performed simultaneously. But it soon turned out that the quintet's popularity rendered it impossible for the musicians to work in both bands. For 5 years, between 1968 and 1973, Tomasz Stanko Quintet, consisting of Tomasz Stanko on trumpet, Zbigniew Seifert on saxophone and later violin, Janusz Muniak on tenor saxophone, and Bronisław Suchanek on bass and Janusz Stefanski on drums, was the flagship of Central European free jazz. They made 3 records: Music for K, Jazz Matches from Poland, and Purple Sun, and performed at Europe's most prestigious festivals such as Jazz Jamboree, Berliner Jazz Tage, International New Jazz Meeting Athena, and International Jazz Beat Festival Aarhus. In the period of his work in the quintet, Seifert underwent a kind of metamorphosis, and already about a year after his graduation from the State Higher School of Music, from which he graduated in 1970, he resolved, with Stanko's encouragement, to use the violin in the quintet. This greatly enriched the ensemble's sound, while Seifert's original style added depth to the already vibrant palette. In Poland, Seifert also recorded for the Polish Radio Jazz Studio, headed by Jan Pitashin-Wroblewski. The quintet session in that studio arguably marked the heyday of the ensemble. After the dissolution of the quintet in 1973, Seifert moved to Germany, where he at once began collaboration with Han Kohler's band Freesound. This was something of a repose after the highly demanding avant-garde free jazz of Stanko's ensemble. From 1974, Seifert recorded for Norddeutscher Rundfunk. Also in 1974, and for the same radio broadcaster, Seifert recorded his concerto for improvising violin, rhythm section and symphony orchestra. In 1975, Seifert founded the international band Various Spheres, with changing lineups. The original band included Hans Hartmann on bass, Michael Herr on piano, and once again, Janusz Stefanski on drums. The second lineup saw Adelhard Reudinger on the bass and Leila Kovachev on drums. Gradually, Seifert matured musically to the point where he could start and follow his own musical path with confidence. One man who assisted him greatly in these efforts was Joachim Ernst Behrend, a figure much appreciated in international jazz circles, who, from the very beginning, noticed Seifert's phenomenal talent and accompanied him till the very end, helping him in artistic projects and lending him moral support in difficult times. The year 1976 was a breakthrough in Seifert's life. He recorded his first solo album, Man of the Light, produced by Behrend. On the musicians who accompanied him on that record, Seifert said, "I am happy that I could make this record with such a rhythm section. Cecil McBee, Billy Hart, Joachim Kuhn. That was the best thing that could happen to me." In April 1976, however, Seifert was diagnosed with a tumour, and from that moment his race against time began. Despite his extremely difficult circumstances, Seifert never gave up. He strongly believed in his chances of recovery and made further artistic plans, even when the disease attacked his right hand for several months. Writing to Janusz Stefanski, he showed his determination when he said, "It's getting better now, Janusz, and I can move my hand 10 to 15 centimeters. I will have to play the sax, but I will play." Seifert had great stamina, and his mental strength emanated from him, though the illness stopped him from normal functioning, and he frequently had to cancel concerts. The great Polish violinist Michał Urbaniak once said, "Zbigniew is strong inside, in his spirit, stronger than all that might happen to him. That's why he will overcome everything." Extremely significant to Seifert's career was the LP Solo Violin, dedicated to his wife Agnieszka. It contains more than 40 minutes of virtuoso violin playing, rooted in both free jazz and free-form expression. In one of his interviews, Seifert stressed that he was not interested in easy violin fingering, and that he derived all his inspiration from the music and techniques of John Coltrane, which was a neck-breaking enterprise considering the different nature of their instruments, as Seifert attested when he said, "All the time, I set myself such stupid riddles, which I could easily play on the sax, but on the violin, I must gradually work out what position I should use to perform them." Seifert was becoming a more and more recognizable figure in the jazz world, and those who listened could not remain indifferent to his playing. In one of his concerts in France, Seifert made such a huge impression on the members of the legendary band Oregon that they invited him to play with them on the LP Oregon Violin, which was recorded in 1977. Also in 1977, thanks to Chris Hines, with whom he collaborated, Seifert made his first record for the American label Capitol, the LP Zbigniew Seifert, which reflected the jazz rock style popular at that time. It is true that Seifert yielded to the pressure of the producers, who turned the release into a purely commercial product, much removed from his own style. Seifert's second Capitol LP, however, was a realization of his musical dreams. On the LP Passion, Seifert was accompanied by such jazz giants as Jack DeJohnette on drums, John Scofield on guitar, Eddie Gomez on bass, Richie Bayrak on piano, and Nana Vasconcelos on percussion. Passion was, unfortunately, Seifert's last record. During the night of the 14th and 15th of February 1979, after 2 operations, he died of a heart attack in the Cancer Hospital in Buffalo. Zbigniew Seifert, or Zbigniew as he was known to his friends, was an extremely colourful and fascinating figure. His unique style left an indelible mark on jazz violin practice. Apart from being an extraordinary musician, he was also, as anyone who knew him would testify, a wonderful man. As Arendt put it, whoever writes about Zbigniew Seifert must also write about Seifert the man, humane, helpful and modest. Arendt later added, McCoy Tyner was for Zbigniew a man of the light. It was to Coltrane's pianist that Seifert dedicated the first track on his MPS record, but to us, Zbigniew's friends, he himself was the man of the light.